Welcome back to our Profits Unlimited podcast. And today what we're going to talk about is something that is very, I'm going to mess up an adjective trying to describe it to you guys because it's the hiring process. Let's just call it that. We've had a lot of requests to have something out on hiring. It seems to be the most exciting part of everything we do for many of us in the industry. Not just our industry, but a lot of industries. I've got myself a cheat sheet today that I'm going to be going by. Normally I don't need one of these, but I just want to be sure to cover enough different things that we found that are successful for us in the hiring and the retention of employees. And I can honestly say that hiring employees may be the hardest part of the business process that we engage in as contractors, next to the bidding process. And this is not going to turn into a bidding presentation by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that hiring people and bidding jobs are the two hardest things that we do. You may be out there thinking, well, I don't have a problem bidding jobs, and that's great. Okay, but the reality of it is a lot of times we can bid jobs for years and not know that we're not right until it's too late. But when we're hiring the wrong employees, we can find out in 20 minutes a lot of times that it's not the right person. So with that being said, let's talk about hiring employees and what we found works good with our lawn and landscaping business here in Louisville, Kentucky. And as you guys know, I share information that some of it might be the craziest thing in the world to you. Some of it might seem okay. And some of it's like, man, that's a great idea, and everything in between. So I'm not saying this is the only way or the only thing that works, but these are the things that we've fine-tuned and drilled down over the course of 40 years being in a business to help us not only find but retain good employees. And a lot of times we hear, where do we find employees? A lot of guys say, well, look at my current employees. Well, that may be a good place, but it may not be a good place. If you're having a problem with employees, do you necessarily want to find out, hey, who do they know that may want a job? Because my mom used to always say, birds of a feather flock together. So if you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again by asking your current employees, hey, do you know anybody that wants to work? There's somebody right there, probably an employee wanting to come in and work with us. But the reality of it is employees may not be your best source of information. Another place we can find employees, obviously, is social media. I know some people say, man, we have great luck on social media, or going through and using like hiring companies, whether it's Indeed or somebody else, not to promote anybody, but there's a lot of different areas out there where you can find employees, or friends, friends of yours, friends of customers. There's a big source of people out there that a lot of times, we got to diversify how we're trying to find our employees to find the best employees. So I'm not going to say one way is the only way to do it. We found good people through social media. We found good people through asking some employees. We found good people by luck, just walking up to a truck. So there's a lot of different ways you can find employees. But I think the biggest mistake we made with our business, quite honestly, was we were too worried about just hiring somebody breathing. We had all this work scheduled. Man, we just needed help. Hey, come on, man, I'll show you how to do this. I'll show you how to do that. We spent way too much time training. And I'm not saying training's a bad thing, because I'm going to talk about the exact opposite of that here in a few minutes. But we almost do it backwards. And we finally figured out that we need to hire slow and fire fast. Any business. Hire slow, fire fast. But what we catch ourselves a lot of times in different industries, including the lawn and landscape industry, is hiring fast and firing slow, thinking we're going to change somebody. It took me a long time to realize and get past my ego that said I wasn't going to be able to change people. People are who they are. They're going to come in and yes sir and yes ma'am and no sir and no ma'am and sit there and present a beautiful self-image, right? We've all seen it. But at the end of the day, after they've been with you for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we see the real side of that. So that's where if you implement a slower hiring process, and we'll discuss that here in a little bit, you're better off in the long term. I know it doesn't help your immediate need of, well, I need somebody right now. Okay? Doesn't help that. But if we hire slow, fire fast, your company's going to be more successful for it with it. So how do we at Wayne's Lawn Service currently have a 17.2 year tenure with our employees? And that's what we're going to talk about. That's how I'm going to share that with you. I've told you we find people from multiple different sources. Some of them last a day, and that we thought were going to be okay, and some of them last a long time. Obviously, we've got crew leaders that have been here with us 25 plus years, 15 years, 18 years. So, like I said, our average is 17.2 years. And so what I'm going to share with you on that is, how do we do that? And I think what we got to look at as a business is, what is the culture that you're creating within your own business for somebody to want to not only come and work there, but stay there? Does that make sense? Have you thought about it like that? It's not just about hiring somebody, no, this guy isn't worth a nickel or this girl isn't worth a nickel, and it's just they're in one day and they're not here and they're calling in sick and the dog ate their homework and all those excuses. I had a friend of mine, Tom Simpson, he's dead now, and he used to always tell me, he said, Wayne, I'm just going to do an excuse board. I'm tired of hearing all the different excuses. I'm just going to have a big board behind me and it's numbered. When they come in with a dumb excuse, I'm just going to say, just give me the number 8, number 14, because we get tired of hearing all the excuses. So how do we change that? First thing we got to do is get your ego and your pride out of the way and say, okay, have I established a culture that a decent person wants to work within? Is my company diversified enough? Can I give somebody more than 28 weeks of work or 35 weeks of work or 40 weeks of work? That's how you start to attract better people. That's what we did. We got more diversified. We were able to give people longer employment, offer more profitable services other than mowing, give a person a reason to stay. And so we got to create a good working environment. And like I said, a lot of these things I'm going to share, you're thinking, well, I'm already doing that. I just ask you to take a gut check for a second and just listen and ask yourself, are you really doing that? Another thing we got to think about is, are we giving our employees good equipment to use? There's nothing more frustrating. Now, I haven't been out on a crew for several years now, but I certainly remember when I was out there that there's nothing more frustrating than pulling a weed eater 27 times when it's 130 degrees outside trying to get it to start, or a blower or a lawnmower. You think, well, I can't afford to keep it up. I can't afford this. Well, that's why I said in the very beginning, hiring people is only second to bidding jobs. And the only reason you can't afford good equipment is because you're not bidding the jobs properly. And if you have good equipment and you're keeping it properly maintained, your employees are going to be happier. Because it's hard enough work out there, right? You guys know it. I know it. You know it. Anybody that's been in this longer than a month understands that it's not an easy job. So why do we want to make it more frustrating by not giving our employees good equipment to work with? Another thing that we do is, and I ask yourself this, are you keeping your trucks clean? Is your equipment clean? Is your shop clean? Is your office clean? Based on your company size, maybe your office is your home or your garage. But when somebody's coming to talk to you about a job or you're going to get equipment, what do they see? Are they seeing something that looks professional? Are they seeing something that's just a wreck and things are laying all over the place? And you, their boss or their owner or whatever it is you want to call yourself, are your shirt sleeves cut off or cut, you wearing pants with holes in them? Are you creating a culture that looks professional? Are you offering uniforms? Again, why is a uniform important? Why is a clean truck important? Why is a clean shop important? Because people see your employees, they see your trucks, they see your equipment. More people, you guys say, well, I don't advertise. You driving down the street is a constant advertisement for your company. So what do you want people to see? Do you want them to see a trailer with a gate falling off halfway, or no tail lights, and people hanging out the window, doing whatever they're doing, hollering at girls, hollering at this, throwing trash out? It all goes back to the culture that you're going to set. Because once you set that culture, that, hey, this is a professional place. We're not just a mowing company. We're not just a lawn service. We're not just the lawn guy. We're a professional service. Do you treat yourself as a professional service? Do you give yourself the credit and the opportunity that you deserve to be considered a professional service? Only you can answer that question. And hopefully that answer is yes. You got to perceive yourself as a professional. Then you can act professional. And then your team members, one at a time that come in, they see that and they know what the expectations are. And that's where it goes back to hiring slow and firing fast. Let them talk. Find out what they can or can't do. How many times haven't you had somebody walk through your door right there, and say, I can run any piece of equipment you got? Anybody heard that besides me? You ever heard that? Guarantee you have. If you hired more than 5 or 10 people in your tenure so far, you've heard that. I can run anything you got. That's probably the person you don't need to hire. My 40 years of experience says the guy that walks into this office and tells us that, hey, I can run anything you got, we just need to turn them around and shoot them right out that door. Because if he's that good, why has he been to 4 different lawn services in 3 months? Or why has he been somewhere, he's a year here and a year there? Why is he only lasting a year? Or why is she only lasting a year somewhere? If you're that good, then something else comes into play. It's probably that attitude. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But you got to make your company look professional, so they understand that, hey, they're going to be expected to be professional, and you make a person feel important with that. You're setting a higher standard. You're setting a different bar than the normal lawn and landscape company is setting. And I'm not saying that everybody's doing it wrong and we're doing it right, or you're doing it right and we're doing it wrong. I'm just saying we got to look at what successful companies are doing and try to emulate that. Do you have an employee handbook when somebody comes in? And it doesn't have to be a 30-page handbook for a one-truck operation. Your handbook's going to be different. For us here, we've got handbooks for employees. We've got, for our seasonal help, we've got something completely different. We got a benefit package that's completely different. So you have different levels of employees. And as your company grows, or even now, let's say now you're a 4 or 5 truck operation, or a 3 truck operation, maybe you don't have those things in place. But if you've got an employee handbook in place and some standard operating procedures, you're giving them what you expect. So now they may like it or dislike it. Maybe they do the best thing possible and take a look at it and say, hey, this place isn't for me. That's how you reduce some of that turnover, is by letting them figure out, hey, this really isn't what I want, man. I just want to work for a mowing service and earn some extra cash. Are you paying people just cash? That's a completely different talk. But when you want to be a professional, you're not going to pay somebody cash. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. And I'm sure it probably will. And this is probably where we get some thumb down signs on the video. But hey, if you're a professional service, key word, professional. And what does professional start with? P-R-O, that's pro. Is that you? Are you a professional? And if you are, you're not paying a guy or a girl out of your pocket every day and saying, okay, here's $100 for today. See you tomorrow. That's not a professional business. That's not a professional business. I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but that's just not the right way to do it. You have a time clock in your office or in your shop. You have a way of keeping time properly for all your employees. Otherwise, how are you tracking your jobs? Are you offering ongoing training? That's something a lot of guys, consulting wise that I talk with, they don't have any ongoing training program for their employees. Well, God, most of them aren't even here long enough for that. Well, maybe they're not here long enough for that because the standard hadn't been set to get the right person in the door. And like I said, we have people leave. We hired a guy a couple weeks ago. He lasted 3 days. But why did he only last 3 days? Because we stick to hire slow, fire fast. That's why they last 3 days. We still have some people that don't last. We all will. Not every hire you make is going to be the best hire. But we got to offer the people that are staying with us ongoing training. My goal is to have people surrounding me that are smarter than I am at what they do. I don't want to have to make every decision. As your company grows, you're not going to want to make every decision within that company. I want my customers to be comfortable working with somebody other than Wayne. And if I can train and educate and offer the opportunity to learn to my employees, you can do the same thing, whether it's 1 or 2 or 5 or 500. But properly training, because what happens when somebody gets trained? Think of yourself. When you learn something new, how does that make you feel? Makes you feel pretty good, doesn't it? Hey man, I can do that. I can do that. Why don't you empower your employees with that same ability and mindset? Give them proper training, empower them with the knowledge to do their job and go out and do their job effectively. And you say, well, why do I want to train them? Then they're just going to leave. They're going to go out and start their own lawn service. Now they're a competitor, right? That happens. You'll lose some like that. We'll lose some like that. Very few you're going to lose like that. But if they're properly trained and they're educated, this is when the culture of your business becomes so important. Give them a reason not to leave. And it took me a long time to realize, too many years to realize, that it's not always money. The person that walks in and says, hey man, that guy just stopped me on the street to go give me 50 cents more in the hour, or $1 more an hour. You don't need that person anyway. You can meet it or I'm going to go work for them. Turn them right around, man. See ya. Been nice knowing you. We're still friends. See ya. But whose fault is that? A little bit on their end, a little bit on your end for not creating a culture within your company that makes them want to stay with you. Ask their opinions. When's the last time you asked an employee for their opinion on how you ought to do something? Hey, what do you think about this? How should we do this? Again, you're making them feel important. What we want as owners, whether it's any business, regardless of the business, what do we a lot of times want? We want clones, right? We want people like us, we think, is what we want initially. But as you stay in business longer and your company grows bigger, you don't want all clones. You don't want a bunch of yes people working for you. You want people that have the ability and the training and the education that you've offered them, and give them the ability to make some decisions on their own. And they're not always going to make what you consider to be the right decision. Something my dad taught me a long time ago, and he was never involved in this landscaping business from a standpoint of being out in the field. He was a sales trainer and worked for a college system before he retired and came in here with us before he passed away. But he always said, Wayne, he said, the biggest mistake I see managers and business owners doing is, he says, they give the employee the responsibility to make the decision, but they don't give them the authority to solve the problem. Think of that. So how do we bring that down to lawn and landscape business? Mowing, the maintenance side of it, for an example. Don't just give a guy a truck and a trailer and tell him to go mow 20 yards, but every time he comes into a situation with a customer, he has to call you and say, hey, what should I do, Mike or Susie? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Give them the authority to make a decision in the field. And if it's not what you think should have necessarily happened, when they come back, talk to them and say, hey, this is how I want you to handle it next time. You'll be creating a person that appreciates the fact that you're letting them make a decision. They don't feel like they're just out there driving a truck, because you can't drive 2 trucks or 3 trucks or 9 trucks or 400 trucks all by yourself. But empower them with that training and education and knowledge to make a decision. If it's not the decision that you want or expect, criticize that person in private, but praise them in public. It all goes back to the culture that you're wanting. And let them know that you respect them. You respect the job that they do for you every day. And different employees will come with different benefit levels as your company grows. You know, maybe a simple benefit is, hey man, I'm gonna pay for your uniforms for you. We're gonna supply your shirts. There's not gonna be a chargeback on your shirts or your hats, or maybe it's a gas card every once in a while, or it's a gift card every once in a while. But give them something for a job well done. And as your company grows and someone gets more authority and more responsibility, right? Then maybe additional benefits come, whether it's through the form of health insurance, right? Or whether it's through the form of whatever you want it to be. What are those benefits going to be? What we found is a lot of times our guys like the benefits they get versus just the pay side of what they get. The pay's got to be fair for the job they're doing. We got a saying here at Wayne's Lawn Service that everybody's treated fair, but not equal. And what we mean by that is, we're not running an assembly line, right? We got certain people that are in production, certain people that are crew leaders, certain people that are in sales, and your company is either there or will get there someday. So people are treated differently. They're compensated differently for what they do for your company. There were times within our company when everybody was treated the same. But you'll find that when you start diversifying your services and diversifying your company a little bit, that different people will do different things within your company and be able to do multiple things or fewer things. And you need both of those. You need some people that all they want to ever do is be on a maintenance crew. And you'll have guys that all they want to do is be on a landscape crew or whatever it may be. And that's okay, because we can't have all chiefs and we can't have all Indians. We got to have a blend of that. And that's where you as the owner or somebody that you delegate down the line based on your company size has to be willing to understand that. But have an opportunity for advancement for everybody. And respect their free time. I see too many companies that they're daylight to dark 6 days a week or 7 days a week, and they say, man, I got to make it while I can make it. Maybe that's why you're having a problem with employees. Because guess what they have? A lot of them have families or girlfriends or boyfriends or kids, and their kids are playing this or doing that. But you know what? They never get the goal. Why? Because you're working from daylight to dark. Once I started respecting the fact, and I missed a lot of that with my kids because I was building this business. But what I also knew, I didn't like missing it, but I had to miss it. And if I wanted people in place that were going to help my company be more successful, I had to respect the fact that they needed some free time. So we set what we consider to be a good opportunity for free time with our company. We work Monday through Thursday, half a day Fridays generally. Now there's a few times you get behind because of rain, right? Where you're working later, you're working Friday. But I can tell you so far, I mean, we're recording this mid-May. And we've got no Saturdays in yet. And there's several reasons. Good employees, they bust their tails while they're working, but they know there's going to be some free time at the end for them. It's not just over and over and over, that repetition of work. Kind of like all work and no play makes Johnny a bad boy, right, in that movie. Same thing happens. Burnout happens. This is a big burnout business. Don't burn your employees out. It goes back to creating that culture. And one of the biggest things that I do every day to every one of our team members here is when they walk out that door right there, I'll tell them thanks and have a good evening. Doesn't cost you a penny to say thank you for what somebody's done every day. And I just ask yourself, when's the last time you told somebody, whether you got one employee or a lot of them, thanks, man, I appreciate what you did today. You know, in business, it's the little things that we do different and better than our competitor. It's never one big thing. It's the little things. Vince Lombardi, I hate to read, but it's one of the few books I've read in my life. And Vince Lombardi, the Green Bay Packer coach, he used to start football practice off, or this is what his book said. He said he walked into football practice every day with professional football players carrying a football, and he'd say, gentlemen, this is a football. And he says, I know they thought I was insulting their intelligence. But he said, the reason I started that every day with, gentlemen, this is a football, he said, I followed that up with, we got to do the little things with this ball different and better than our competitor. And if we do the little things better, what are we going to do? You tell me, you think about it. What's going to happen when you do the little things better than your competitor? That's right. You're going to win. Because when it comes to winning and losing in business, there's only two sides of the street. It's the successful side and it's the struggling side. The great thing about it is you get to pick which side you want to live on. I can tell you, Wayne's Lawn Service, we lived on the hard side and the broke side and the changing employee side for 9 years. Guess what we did? We got tired of it. We started doing the little things better. And one of the little things we started doing different and better was creating a culture within our company that reeked of professionalism. It not only helped us attract different and better employees, but it allowed us to attract different and better customers. And when we start attracting different and better customers, guess what? Their expectations were higher. We supplied that expectation with a better employee who had a trained and educated culture within our company of professionalism. And what were those people willing to do for it? They were willing to pay more for it. So we could do less work, charge more for it, pay employees better, offer them benefits, create a culture that made our company a better company to work for versus our competitor. So is there a magic wand? No. I'm not going to wave this wand and say, poof, do this, and feel like whoever that guy is. No, there's not a wand you're going to wave and get it accomplished. But you're going to put your hat on, get in your mind, and you're going to say, hey, I've got to do something different and better because it's not working. And everybody I talk to, it's not working. So why is it working for some? Because they've created a different culture. It's not just finding people. It's finding the right people and putting them into the professional culture that you create and you maintain within your company, and everybody's more successful. you're more successful, your employees are more successful, and then finally, your business is more successful. I hope this helps you just a little bit. It's not the answer of how do we find it or where do we find it, but what do you need to do within your company to create a better culture for people to come to work for you. And once you've got them there, you train them, you educate them, you empower them, you give them not only the responsibility, but the authority to make a decision. And that's how you get a 17.2-year tenure and greater. Because there's companies out there better than ours with as far as term of average terms. But when you look at any successful company, that's what they've all got. They've got a good culture for their employees to work within. Again, remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on our Facebook page, and I appreciate your time today. Thanks.